of time on this program talking about the issue of poverty and homelessness in Southern California, LA specifically. The LA Times reports that the LA homeless problem has surged. Homelessness in Los Angeles has surged 75% in just 6 years. What is causing this crisis? What is it really like? We talk about it, but I don't think we've lived it. The person who has is Katie Hopkins from Rebel Media. She's also the author of a new book, Rude. Pick it up wherever books are sold. And Katie, you just spent some time on Skid Row in Los Angeles. Welcome in first to The Morning Answer. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you very much for having me on.
So now you are obviously, we love the accent, and you are obviously not from California, not from Los Angeles. You're from across the pond. What made you think about Los Angeles in this poverty situation? What drew you into this issue?
Yeah, well, I'm in America quite a lot, and last time I was in LA, in fact, I drove past Skid Row. Someone pointed it out to me and went, "Oh, well, that's Skid Row. You don't want to go there." And when I was in downtown, I picked up a map from a hotel, and they had even placed like a sticker over the whole area, which is only 2 blocks away, the whole area of Skid Row, as if that would kind of magically make the problem go away, as if we don't talk about it, or if we hide it away under a sticker like a plaster, no one will worry about it. So I decided, look, I know what, I'll just go there, no agenda, just film being in Skid Row, see what life's like, live there for 2 days, 2 nights, and just see what life is like in Skid Row in the heart of downtown LA. And I can tell you, it was much worse than I anticipated. It is a sea of human filth and rats and sewage and a lost population. It is truly dreadful.
And just to clarify, so you actually stayed there for 2 nights?
Yes, so I stayed there, and the footage we have is of me kind of walking around like some strange woman with no purpose at about 2 in the morning, and that's where you see, of course, the worst of it, but also the truth of it. And I think sometimes maybe many of us are guilty of spending a little bit too much time in studios, or, we see commentators on CNN who just regurgitate the same sort of sound bites. I think it would be good if some of these so-called journalists actually did go out and take a look at what we're surrounded by. And what we're surrounded by in the heart of downtown is very much like London in the 1600s, just before the outbreak of the bubonic plague. The rats are really everywhere in downtown right now.
Now, you spend a lot of time going around the world, going into areas that the traditional media doesn't. So you have a perspective that a lot of people don't have. You've been to South Africa. You were at the David Horowitz Freedom Center on Tuesday discussing what you found in South Africa. But in your travels around, we kind of think of America as, sort of a cut above, where the city, the shining city on the hill. How did what you witnessed in Skid Row compare to what you've seen in other countries, particularly third world?
Yeah, I've been to some pretty, what would we say? We would say dodgy countries. President Trump has a different term.
Yeah, exactly right.
But yes, I've been to many of those countries, and parts of the UK, I have to tell you, are pretty much near third world. But I've lived in migrant camps. I traveled with the migrants from Libya across the Med to southern Italy to see what that journey was like, people being trafficked by the mafia, essentially. And I have to say, having lived in the camp at Calais as well, the conditions on Skid Row in downtown LA in March 2018 are worse than anything I've seen in the migrant camps. Because in the migrant camps, of course, these people are on the move still. They are looking to go somewhere else, most of them looking to get to the UK, which they see as the promised land. And so there's a sense of movement, a sense of anticipation, almost a sense of hope in terms of their desperation to get to the UK. On Skid Row, that's the opposite. People are not going anywhere. They're not hopeful for anything. They are lost people. And the Democrats seem to think that if you issue tears and sympathy, a little bit of cash here and there, and put a few missions up, that kind of makes the problem okay. And it really doesn't. And my message, I suppose, to Democrats or people who are looking away or prefer to talk of dreamers or sanctuary cities is, hey, why don't you go to, 4th and 5th? Why don't you go hang on Skid Row? Because those tents aren't staying there, and those rats, they're not staying there either. And pretty soon, one morning, you're going to wake up because numbers are ballooning in LA of the homeless, as you know, you're going to wake up and those tents will be outside your door. And then maybe you really will start to care. And I do think there is a public health hazard right now in the center of downtown just waiting to happen. It can only be so long before there is an outbreak of something properly nasty in downtown LA.
It is so frightening. We're visiting with Katie Hopkins. She's from Rebel Media. She also has a new book out called Rude. It's available wherever books are sold.
And you can follow her on Twitter at @KT Hopkins. Great Twitter stream from Katie of things she learns around the world.
I'm a new follower, but Katie, you know, when we talk about the homeless problem, it obviously it's very concentrated in downtown LA where you just spent 2 nights, but the homeless problem has exploded all over Southern California, and I live in an area of the San Fernando Valley where the homeless population is huge. And I've said on this program that I think a lot of these people, the people that really truly need help, are finding programs through churches or through government assistance. They're getting help. But the people who are out there on the streets are either mentally ill or they have such severe drug addictions they don't want to abide by the rules. Did you find that to be true, or who is out there?
No, I think you're absolutely correct, and I think your observations are perfectly true. Those that are able to manage through a sort of series of gateways to improve their life do, because the mission scoop them up. There's programs, there's the LAMP project, there's all these different people working industrially hard to try to give people hope on Skid Row, and I admire all of them very much. But there remains a constant population. Let's take the Skid Row example of around 2,000 people who are, in my personal opinion, beyond help. Clearly they have mental illness, clearly they have drug problems, and a combination of the two. And out of respect for their inability to help themselves, it is no longer appropriate to offer help that they have to access. We need an intervention, and that's a military-style operation where we help assist physically these individuals into managed spaces, homes that they can be managed in with their mental health issues, and then a clearing program in order to try to make the streets safe again in terms of the, you know, I fell over a few times because those streets are so slippy because there's so much waste around, that human waste. And you know, that's the sort of level, and we need to clear that up. So it's not about clearing people away. It's not about any aggressive kind of approach. It's about saying, okay, here we are, and we're going to move these people into a position where they can be cared for appropriately, because leaving them and abandoning them to their own fate on the streets clearly isn't working.
There's in our country, we turn our back on this mental health issue because it affects us in a variety of ways. Yeah. We just saw it in Parkland, a mental health issue that should have been addressed years ago, took 17 lives, and here you're talking about a mental health issue on the streets of LA. What is it about that issue that, you know, we shy away from addressing?
I think we've made it problematic ourselves because, you know, when it was kind of changed in the medical handbook, the diagnosis for mental illnesses, it became so catch-all that everybody has a mental illness. You know, we've seen an uptick in mental health issues of sort of 450%, 500% in the UK, because what America does, the UK follows. And I think many people actually are guilty of diluting the issue of mental illness. So clearly we have people with severe mental illnesses and they need help. But because now everyone, it seems to me every 16-year-old I've heard of has got mental health problems, we've diluted the problem, I think, to a point where people who really need help, we can't target them effectively. It seems to me that many young people these days, when they're feeling a bit sad or life's a bit hard, or there's just some genuine human issue that we have to deal with, like death and sadness, it becomes called, you know, mental health issues. And I think we've diluted it as a result.
All right, Katie Hopkins, this is so interesting. We'd love to have you back again. Katie Hopkins on Twitter at KT Hopkins. You can also go to hopkinsworld.com, pick up the new book, Rude. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever you buy books. Katie Hopkins, thank you so much for that insight.
Absolutely.
You didn't frankly have the balls to put country before party.